Oh, you're here. Good. I've got another betrayal story for you. Sit down. They told me I should be grateful my daughter caught the eye of a wealthy man. But the night I saw the way he looked at her, I knew something was off. My name's Mark. I'm 47 years old. I run a small auto shop I inherited from my dad, and I've lived most of my life believing that honesty and hard work were enough. My wife, Mara, used to say that was what she loved about me. Simple, steady, dependable. And my daughter, Lily? She's 21, studying business, sharp as a tack. Or, at least, she used to be. The first time she brought Adrian around, she called it a nice family dinner to meet him properly. Mara couldn't stop buzzing about it. Mark, wear your good shirt. He's an angel investor. You don't want to embarrass Lily. I'd already heard the name whispered like magic. Adrian, the wealthy boyfriend, the man with the perfect car and the endless accounts. We didn't eat at home that night. Adrian insisted on taking us out. The kind of restaurant where the menus don't show prices. Just dishes written in French and Italian, and the waiters looked like they walked out of a fashion magazine. Mara was glowing, like she'd stepped into a dream. Lily was beaming, proud to show him off. And me? I just sat there, a little out of place. Try not to judge too quickly. Adrian was smooth. Too smooth. He complimented Mara's earrings, asked about Lily's classes, and cracked jokes at just the right times. Every word was polished, like he practiced it in the mirror. But there were cracks. Small ones. When the server brought him the wrong wine, Adrian didn't correct him politely. He leaned back, smirked, and said, "I guess this is why you people have scripts to follow, right?" The whole table went quiet for a second. Mara forced a laugh. Lily blushed. Adrian didn't notice. Or maybe he didn't care. I caught another crack when his driver, Victor, brought in a briefcase he'd left in the car. Victor's hand shook when Adrian snapped. "Took you long enough." It wasn't the words. It was the way Victor flinched, like he'd been hit before. Something about it crawled under my skin. Dinner rolled on, course after course. Adrian telling stories about his projects. He joked about making interns sign NDAs just to pour coffee. Said it kept loyalty tight. Mara laughed too loudly, like she thought it was brilliant. Lily giggled nervously. I just stared at him. Then came the real punch. "So," Adrian said, cutting into a steak, "Lily's bright, but school's holding her back. She could be learning hands-on with me, helping manage accounts, and traveling. Real-world experience." Mara's eyes lit up. "That sounds incredible." Lily nodded quickly, maybe too quickly, like she wanted to please him. But me? My stomach dropped. She was halfway through her degree, and here he was dangling a future in exchange for obedience. I set down my fork. She's doing fine where she is. Education comes first. Adrian tilted his head, smiling like I was a child. "Of course, but education without leverage? That's just theory. Don't you think, Mark?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The way Mara beamed at him, the way Lily leaned into his side, told me exactly where this was headed. That was the night I stopped seeing Adrian as just my daughter's boyfriend. That was the night I realized he was testing us, probing for weaknesses. And Mara? She was already hooked. After that dinner, Adrian began weaving himself deeper into the family, and Mara let him. It started small, like a spider spinning threads you didn't notice until you were tangled. He showed up at the shop one afternoon, leaning against his imported car like it was a throne. He wasn't there for service. He was there to talk. "You know, Mark," he said casually, "Lily and I have been discussing the future. I think we're ready to take the next step." I wiped grease from my hands and stared at him. "Next step? She's 21. He smiled like I'd complimented him. "Exactly. Perfect age to start building something together." He tapped the hood of his car. "And with the right partner, she won't waste years fumbling around in classrooms." I bit back my first response. He wasn't talking about partnership. He was talking about control. When I told Mara later, she waved it off. "Mark, Don't be so uptight. He's just ambitious. Lily deserves ambition. Ambition? I said. Or ownership? She didn't answer, just walked away. The pressure escalated fast. Adrian bought Lily a diamond necklace that looked like it cost more than my truck, then a designer handbag. Then he offered to fund her own startup idea. It wasn't generosity, it was bait. One night at dinner, he leaned across the table. You know, Lily, I could see us married within a year. Why wait? Lily's cheeks flushed. Mara clapped her hands together like a little girl at Christmas. Oh, that would be wonderful. I froze mid-bite. She's in the middle of grad school. Adrian waved it off. School will still be there. But opportunities like this, timing is everything. The way Mara's eyes sparkled told me she agreed with him. And the way Lily looked at me, pleading silently for approval, told me she was already caught in his net. Then came the papers. Adrian showed up at the house with a briefcase, slick as ever. He set it on the coffee table, clicked it open, and slid a stack of documents toward me. What's this? I asked. Just some standard paperwork. Character reference for me. Nothing major. And a prenup. Protection, you know how it is. I skimmed the papers. The character reference was basically a glowing endorsement, my signature used as a stamp of approval for his spotless reputation. The prenup was worse. If Lily left him for any reason, she walked away with nothing. No assets, no rights, nothing. I looked up, my voice flat. You want me to sign this? Adrian leaned back, smiling like a wolf in a suit. Of course. Fathers-in-law always do. It's tradition. I tossed the papers back onto the table. Not this father. Not now, not ever. His eyes narrowed, the smile twitching but not breaking. You don't trust me? Not even a little. That was the first time the mask slipped. His voice sharpened, just a fraction. Mark, I think your judgment is clouded. Maybe you're jealous, intimidated. I barked out a laugh. Jealous of what? A man who hides behind contracts to protect himself from a 21-year-old. That's when Mara stepped in. Her voice cut like a knife. Mark, stop. You're holding Lily back. You don't see what she could have, the life she could live. I turned to her, stunned. You're siding with him? She crossed her arms. I'm siding with our daughter's future. The room went silent, except for the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Adrian leaned back again, smug as ever, watching me like he'd already won. That night, for the first time in our marriage, I slept on the couch by choice. Because if I stayed in that bedroom, staring at the woman who once swore we'd stand together, I might have said words I couldn't take back. And as I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I realized something that chilled me more than anything Adrian had done. Mara wasn't just tolerating him. She believed in him. And that meant I was already outnumbered in my own home. Adrian didn't just want Lily. He wanted me out of the picture. And my wife was helping him. It started on a Tuesday evening after I closed the shop. I walked into the house and found Adrian already there, lounging on the couch like he owned the place. Mara sat beside him, sipping wine, smiling at something he'd just said. Lily scrolled on her phone, perched on the armrest, perfectly at ease. I froze in the doorway. What's he doing here again? Mara shot me a sharp look. He's family now, Mark. Stop being rude. Family? I repeated. He's a boyfriend, not a husband. Adrian smirked. Not yet. That was it. The smirk, the tone, the way he spread himself across my couch as if I were the guest. My blood boiled. Out. Now. Adrian stood, cool as ice, straightening his jacket. You can't control everything, Mark. That's why everyone's so tired of you. I stepped closer, fists clenched at my sides. You've got no place here. He leaned in just enough for Mara not to notice, his voice a whisper only I caught. Careful, old man. One shove, one raised voice, and they'll believe me over you. I didn't shove him. I didn't even touch him, but he stumbled backward deliberately, catching the edge of the coffee table, knocking a glass to the floor. The sound of shattering cut through the room, like a gunshot. Mara shot up. "Mark!" Adrian clutched his shoulder, wincing theatrically. He pushed me. I tried to be patient, but that's a lie. I barked. "I never touched you." But Mara didn't look at me. She ran to Adrian, fussing over him, checking for bruises. Lily gasped, wide-eyed, looking at me like I was a monster. The trap had sprung. The shouting went on for an hour. Mara demanded I apologize. Adrian insisted he'd let it go if I admitted I lost my temper. Lily begged me to stop being stubborn, but I wouldn't. I couldn't, because once you apologize for something you didn't do, the lie becomes truth forever. I stood my ground. I didn't push him, and I won't say I did. Mara's face hardened, colder than I'd ever seen it. "Then leave." I stared at her, stunned. "Leave? This is my house. Our house." "Not anymore," she said flatly. "If you can't support Lily's happiness, if you can't accept Adrian, then you don't belong here." I felt the ground shift under me. My wife, the woman who once vowed we were a team, was locking arms with a man tearing us apart. When I refused again, she grabbed her keys, marched to the front door, and locked it from the outside. "Get your things tomorrow. Tonight, you're not staying here." Adrian stood behind her, smirking like the devil had just won a bet. I didn't beg. I didn't fight. I walked away. My hand shook on the steering wheel all the way to a cheap apartment complex 10 minutes down the road. Month-to-month lease, water stains on the ceiling, pipes that groan when you turn the shower on. But it was mine. No Adrian. No Mara. Just silence. At first, the quiet felt like death. Then it became a kind of numb peace. I still check social media, still watch my family parade themselves with Adrian, post after post. Lily on his arm at dinners, Mara smiling beside them, champagne glasses raised, captions about new beginnings and building a future. It felt like being erased in real time. Lily looked radiant in those photos, but it wasn't the kind of happiness I trusted. There was something in her eyes, a stiffness in her smile. And Mara, she looked 10 years younger, living in Adrian's shadow like it was sunlight. Meanwhile, I sat on a second-hand couch in a drafty apartment, staring at my phone like a stranger spying on my own family. Nights were the worst. I lay in bed, wondering when it had all slipped away. Was it the moment Lily introduced Adrian? Or had Mara been looking for a way out long before? What burned most wasn't Adrian's smug grin or Lily's blinded devotion. It was Mara turning the key, looking me in the eye, and deciding I was the enemy. That betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Because once your wife chooses another man's lies over your truth, you're not just losing a home. You're losing the family you thought you built together. And Adrian knew it. That night, when I saw his hand on the small of Mara's back as she shut the door, I understood exactly what he wanted. It wasn't just Lily. It was everything I loved. Distance gave me clarity, and clarity revealed things I'd missed. When you're no longer in a room, no longer fighting every battle face to face, you start seeing the small details you once brushed aside. I scrolled through Lily's social media one night, sitting on the lumpy couch in my rented apartment, the glow of the screen the only light in the room. At first glance, everything looked perfect. Candlelit dinners, charity galas, and photos of Adrian with his arm proudly around her. But then something caught my eye, a thin bracelet on Lily's wrist. Sleek metallic, not her usual style. The caption said it was a wellness band, but it looked more like a tracker. A week later, when she posted another photo, I zoomed in. Same band, but the display showed her heart rate and GPS coordinates. My stomach dropped. Adrian hadn't just given her jewelry. He'd given her a leash. The more I looked, the darker it got. Adrian supposed charities popped up everywhere. Helping youth build futures. Global Opportunity Fund. Impressive names plastered across glossy invitations. But when I ran the addresses, they all pointed back to the same office suite. a shell company that had dissolved and reappeared under different names more times than I could count. I knew shady when I saw it, and Adrian was knee-deep in it. One evening, as I was locking up the shop, Victor showed up. He leaned against his car, not meeting my eyes. I hadn't seen him since that dinner, but he looked worse. Pale, tired, his shoulders hunched like a man carrying too much weight. Need something? I asked. He hesitated, then glanced around the empty lot. I shouldn't be here, but I thought you should know she's not as free as she looks. I stepped closer. What do you mean? He rubbed the back of his neck. That bracelet, it's not for fitness. He checks it constantly. Where she is, who she's with, if she takes it off, he knows. My jaw tightened. Why are you telling me this? Victor swallowed hard. Because I can't watch it anymore. But I can't stop it either. He opened the car door, pausing just long enough to add, be careful. He doesn't forgive. And then he was gone, taillights disappearing into the night, leaving me with more questions than answers. I kept looking at Lily's posts after that, but the shine was gone. Her smiles looked stiff, her eyes dimmer. At one gala photo, I noticed her makeup couldn't quite hide the faint bruises around her wrist where the band pressed into her skin. That image burned into me. I zoomed in until it was blurry, but there was no mistaking it. Finger marks, not just a band. Somebody had grabbed her. Hard. I sat there in the silence of my apartment, phone shaking in my hand. My daughter, my Lily, was in trouble, and she was trapped in plain sight. Then came the message. It was late, close to midnight, when my phone buzzed. A text from Lily's number. For a second, relief surged through me. Maybe she'd finally reached out. Maybe she was ready to talk. But the message wasn't from her. She's safe. Back off. Cold. Clinical. The words weren't hers. They were his. Adrian was using her phone to send me a warning. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred, anger boiling in my chest. He wanted me to know he had her under control. He wanted me to feel powerless. But what he didn't understand was that I'd been powerless before, broke, sleeping on a couch, cast out of my own home. And I'd survived. Now I had clarity. Now I had a reason. And if Adrian thought a text message would scare me off, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. The next morning, I drove past their house on my way to work. I wasn't proud of it, but I had to see it with my own eyes. Through the window, I spotted Lily at the kitchen table, head bent low, Adrian pacing behind her with his phone in hand. For a brief second, she lifted her head. Our eyes met through the glass. And in that split second, I saw it. Fear. Not annoyance, not frustration. Pure fear. She looked away quickly, as if she wasn't allowed to be caught staring. I drove off with my chest tight, my knuckles white on the wheel. I didn't know what my next move was yet, but I knew this much. Adrian wasn't just trying to win Lily over. He was trying to erase me. And if I didn't act soon, I wasn't just going to lose my family. I was going to lose my daughter for good. The official announcement came in the form of a gold-embossed envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a glossy card with cursive script. You are cordially invited to celebrate the engagement of Adrian Cross and Lily Carter. My stomach twisted at the sight of it. An engagement party. Not even 6 months since they'd met. But it wasn't the invitation itself that broke me. It was the sticky note attached. My wife's handwriting, sharp and deliberate. Do not attend. This is for the family. Mara and Lily. Family. I sat there in the dim light of my kitchen, the word echoing in my head. I'd been erased from my own bloodline, shut out of my daughter's life like I was already dead. I wanted to tear the note in half, shred the invitation into confetti. But I didn't. Instead, I pinned it to the wall above my desk. A reminder, not of what I'd lost, but of what Adrian was trying to take from me. That night, I went digging. I started with his name, Adrian Cross. Polished, perfect, exactly what he wanted the world to believe. But tucked deep in the county records, I found something else. An old alias, Adam Cray. And under that name, lawsuits. A string of them. Civil complaints from angry investors. Liens filed against failed ventures. Even a nonprofit that had dissolved quietly after funneling donations to administrative costs. It was all there in black and white, hidden in plain sight. I printed the filings, stacked them on my table, and stared. This wasn't a jealous father lashing out at a boyfriend. This was evidence. 2 days later, the cracks widened. I was scrolling through social media when a name popped up in my feed. Elaine Porter. I remembered her face vaguely. Adrian's assistant, the young woman who always trailed a few steps behind him at the restaurant, tablet in hand, eyes downcast. Now she wasn't silent anymore. Her post was long, trembling, but raw. She wrote about NDAs forced on her at knife point, not literally, but through intimidation so heavy it felt the same. She detailed investors being strong-armed, money disappearing into ghost accounts, and women being pressured into silence after Adrian crossed every line of professionalism. "I'm done protecting him," she wrote. "People deserve to know who Adrian really is." The post went viral within hours. Screenshots spread across Twitter, Instagram, and even LinkedIn. Elaine's courage lit a fire under people I didn't even know existed. And when I added her story to the stack of records on my desk, it became undeniable. Adrian's perfect mask was cracking. By the end of the week, the local paper ran a headline that stopped me cold. "Wealthy philanthropist or master manipulator. Former employees speak out against Adrian Cross." The article quoted Elaine directly and referenced the lawsuits I dug up. I hadn't spoken to the reporter, but someone had fed them the filings. Maybe Elaine herself. Maybe another victim emboldened by her stand. Either way, it didn't matter. What mattered was this. Adrian's spotless reputation was now bleeding in the public eye. I sat in my apartment. The paper spread out on the coffee table, a bitter laugh slipping from my throat. For the first time in months, I felt something like hope. But Adrian wasn't one to fold quietly. He stormed into the narrative, releasing a carefully produced video within hours of the article. Sitting in a sleek office, he spoke with polished calm, brushing off the allegations as the desperate lies of disgruntled employees and a smear campaign by those envious of success. He even had the nerve to glance at Lily at one point, squeezing her hand on camera as if to say, "See? Even she stand with me." It made me sick. But here's the thing about liars. The louder they shout, the more attention they draw. And Adrian's arrogance brought scrutiny he couldn't control. 2 mornings later, I drove past his headquarters on my way to the shop. The parking lot was crawling with news vans, microphones shoved into the faces of employees as they hurried inside. And then I saw them. 2 black SUVs parked near the entrance, men in plain suits stepping out with badges flashing. Regulators, investigators, maybe even federal. They marched past the cameras without a word, straight into Adrian's empire of smoke and mirrors. I pulled over down the street, heart hammering as I watched the scene unfold. For months, I'd been shouting into the void, dismissed as bitter, jealous, unstable. But now, the weight wasn't just on my shoulders. The system, slow, flawed, but finally awake, was knocking on Adrian's door. That night, Mara called me. First time in weeks. Her voice was tight, brittle. "What did you do?" she demanded. I almost laughed. What did I do? "Mara, this isn't me. This is him. It's all him. You've poisoned her against him, haven't you? Open your eyes." My voice cracked, raw from months of swallowing rage. "This isn't about me, Mara. It's about Lily. He's dangerous." And now the whole damn world sees it. Silence. For a long moment, I thought she'd hung up. Then she whispered, "She's engaged to him. What if it's too late?" The line went dead. I sat there in the quiet, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the wall. Too late? No, not yet. Because Adrian Cross was finally standing on unsteady ground. And I wasn't about to stop pushing until it crumbled beneath him. Adrian's empire was crumbling, but he wasn't going down without dragging Lily with him. The headlines are everywhere now. Investors press charges. Employees speak out. Assets under review. His carefully polished image was unraveling thread by thread. But instead of letting the storm swallow him, Adrian did what predators do best. He turned to the person easiest to control. Lily. He convinced her they needed to get away from the noise, framing it like a vacation, a quick trip out of town until things settled. He booked a last-minute flight under a different name, made it all sound like adventure, but there was panic behind his charm. I knew it, even from the fragments I caught through the grapevine. That evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Dad. Her voice was trembling, hushed like she was hiding in a closet. Lily? Where are you? At the airport. He's trying to get me on a plane. I don't want to go. My heart pounded so hard I thought the phone might shake out my hand. Where exactly are you? The restroom by gate 14. He thinks I'm fixing my makeup. Her breath hitched. Dad, I don't know what to do. I closed my eyes, forced my voice steady. Okay, listen carefully. You don't go back to him. Not for your bag, not for your ticket, nothing. You walk out of that restroom and head straight for the exit signs. Keep the phone to your ear. I'll guide you. Dad, what if he sees me? Then you keep walking. Don't run. Don't look back. Just walk like you belong. I jumped in my truck, engine roaring to life, and tore through traffic toward the airport. With one hand on the wheel, the other gripped the phone. Okay, honey. You see the security desk. Yeah, she whispered. Good. Keep left of it. Don't make eye contact. Just keep walking. I could hear the shuffle of footsteps, the hum of airport announcements. My chest felt like it might burst. All right, now the glass doors in front of you, that's the exit. Push through and keep going till you're outside. Silence for a beat. Then I heard it. The rush of open air, the muffled sound of cars pulling up. I'm out. I swerved into the arrivals lane minutes later, heart hammering. And then I saw her, my daughter, standing at the curb with nothing but her phone clutched in her hand. No suitcase, no designer purse, no jewelry Adrian had draped on her like chains. Just Lily, pale and shaking, but free. She spotted me, her eyes flooding with tears. She bolted to the truck, and the second she climbed in, I wrapped her in my arms. For the first time in months, I felt like her father again. We didn't make it 10 minutes down the road before another call came in. Mara. I almost ignored it, but Lily nodded at me, tears still streaking her face. So I answered. Where is she? Mara's voice cracked through the speaker, frantic. With me? I said flatly. There was a pause, then a sob. Mark, I'm sorry. I didn't know how far he'd go. He told me he'd back the boutique, give me the chance I never had, but her breath hitched. I thought it was harmless. I thought he just wanted Lily to be happy. I gripped the wheel, jaw tight. You sold your daughter's freedom for a storefront and a ribbon cutting. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. My voice cut sharply. You let him buy your loyalty. And when I refused, you threw me out. On the other end, only silence, then a faint whisper. Can we ever fix this? I didn't answer, because some things can't be fixed. In the weeks that followed, Adrian's empire collapsed like rotten timber. Regulators froze his assets. The so-called charities he paraded in the press were audited and found riddled with fraud. Former employees lined up to testify, and Elaine, brave Elaine, gave a sworn statement that cracked his defense wide open. But the most powerful testimony came from Lily. Sitting across from a detective, voice quivering but steady, she explained the manipulation, the control, the night at the airport. Watching her reclaim her voice was the proudest moment of my life. Adrian was indicted on multiple counts: fraud, coercion, and identity misrepresentation. His glossy mask shattered under fluorescent courtroom lights. His loyal driver Victor finally stepping forward to corroborate what we'd long suspected. Months passed. Life wasn't instantly perfect. Scars don't heal overnight. But Lily went back to grad school, walking onto campus without looking over her shoulder. She picked up shifts at the bookstore to pay her rent, proud to stand on her own 2 feet again. Mara, she reached out occasionally. Small texts, a voicemail once. She showed up at the shop once too, standing awkwardly by the counter, eyes searching mine. I listened, nodded, but I never let her pretend the past hadn't happened. Trust, once broken, isn't something you glue back together. It's something you rebuild from scratch, and she hadn't even laid a foundation. So we stayed civil. For Lily's sake. Nothing more. The final chapter came on a spring morning, months later. Lily walked across the stage, her cap and gown catching the light, the crowd cheering as her name was called. I stood in the bleachers, clapping until my hands hurt. When she descended the stairs, she spotted me in the crowd. Her face broke into a real smile, not the hollow, polished one she wore for Adrian, but the one I remember from when she was little. She pushed through the throng of people, tugged me down by the hand, and whispered in my ear, "Thanks for not approving him." Tears blurred my vision. I squeezed her hand back, my throat too tight to speak, because in that moment I knew I hadn't lost my daughter. I'd saved her. What would you have done? Signed the papers to keep the peace, or stood your ground even if it meant losing your family? And do you think Mark was right to cut Mara off after she sided with Adrian? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you like stories where betrayal comes with a twist, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.